It's been a while, but today I have another sunscreen roundup review for you guys, both Korean and Japanese. And spoiler alert, I love all of these. Hi guys, welcome back to Sheri Approved. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're new, welcome. And if you're already a part of the Sheri Approved family, thank you so much for clicking on today's video. You guys know that I am the sunscreen queen, and I'm always telling you guys that you need to wear sunscreen and wear it properly. And it's been a while since I've done one of these videos for you guys where I have been testing sunscreens to give you my thoughts. And I'm so happy to share about the 4 sunscreens that I have today. I have 2 Korean ones, 2 Japanese ones. And if you are in the combination oily family, I think you definitely want to be watching this video. Before we jump into it, I will be demoing all of these sunscreens on my skin. I'm oily, acne prone, and this year my skin has been a little bit more sensitized because of my issues with seborrheic dermatitis. So please keep that in mind. I am also a licensed skincare consultant, and it's one of the reasons why I test so many products, especially sunscreens, because I have to be able to recommend a wide range of options for my clients. Let's start with the 2 Korean sunscreens that have had my heart over the last couple months. And this first one, honestly, is running for my top sunscreen pick for the year that is not a sweat or water resistant sunscreen. And this is by Goodal, and this is their Heartleaf Calming Moisture Sunscreen. This is SPF 50 plus, PA4 pluses. All of the sunscreens that I'm mentioning today have that same level of protection, very high UVA and UVB protection. Now, this sunscreen was actually not released this year. This has been around for a while. And my friend in Singapore kept talking about this repeatedly, saying that it is a favorite, especially for oily skin in their humidity. For some reason, I just never got around to ordering it and trying it until a couple months ago. And I was like, but Sheri, you was playing. This sunscreen is fragrance-free and essential oil-free, and it also has all new generation UV filters. I will include the filters on the screen. As you can see, this contains some of my favorite new generation filters, including Tinosorb HEB, which we know is one of those filters that is very photo-stable. Now, you know, when it comes to Korean sunscreens, they always like to have some type of focus on another skincare ingredient in their sunscreens, and this is no different. The focus in this one is Hortunia cordata, which if you've been following me for a while, you would have heard me mention over the years. It is not only an antioxidant ingredient, but it is also a very calming ingredient for the skin. This sunscreen also has another ingredient that is really great in this formula. That particular ingredient is used in formulas to help create high SPF formulas while keeping the formula cosmetically elegant. So what that means is because that ingredient is in this formulation, it helps the sunscreen spread easier, and it also helps to reduce the greasiness that comes from the oil-soluble sunscreen ingredients. Generally, a lot of people tend to find that sunscreens are more emollient on the skin simply because most UV filters are oil soluble, which means for them to be put into a formulation to get your sunscreen, it has to be dissolved in some type of oil. It is more easily dissolved in oil than water. Now, for people with oily skin, that may not necessarily be the most pleasant experience because you tend to find that sunscreens might have that extra slip on the skin. But enter an ingredient like this that helps the formula feel way better on somebody like me who has oily skin. Besides that, this is a no frills, no fuss sunscreen. It applies so easily. In all my demos, you will generally see me apply my sunscreen in 2 layers. I'm splitting my 1/4 teaspoon of product into 2 1/8 portions. I apply 1 layer, I give it a couple seconds, and then I apply my second layer. That helps give me the most even application on my skin. And this one does not irritate my eyes or skin at all. Now, I'm mentioning this because a lot of people ask, does the sunscreen burn? Now, it's important for us to understand that whether a sunscreen burn your eyes or your skin is a very individual thing. However, you will notice that if you try certain sunscreens, you can go back and check UV filters or maybe certain common ingredients to try to figure out what's actually causing the irritation for you. When it comes to me, a lot of the traditional filters that I use in the US tend to irritate my skin and my eyes a lot. And that's actually what drew me over to the Asian, European type sunscreens, because they use a lot of the newer generation filters, and I realized that my skin and my eyes do really good with those. If the older UV filters don't bother you at all, then by all means, please proceed. Use your sunscreen, use the amount that you need to use to get the protection that your skin needs. Now back to the Goodal. When I tell you, the first time I applied it, I said, okay, right, I am seeing like a natural glow and the skin looks nice. It looked like a lot of other Korean sunscreens, but the beauty of this is just leave it for 10 minutes and let it set. And when it sets on the skin, I love the finish. This has a very natural, comfortable finish on my skin. I also love wearing this under makeup. It does not slip, it does not slide. I don't find that my skin gets extra greasy or extra oily or look obnoxiously like I could fry chicken on it with the sunscreen. I really enjoy this. The other thing is that I have used this when my skin was extremely sensitized and it did not bother my skin at all. I feel very comfortable recommending this sunscreen to a lot of people, but especially if you're combination oily, this is the next sunscreen you need to try. The next one that I have to show you is by Dr. Jart. And Dr. Jart is not in the most affordable range, but this is the Every Sunday Waterproof Sun Milk SPF 50 Plus PA4 Pluses. That is what this one looks like. But this one has all the things. So it has alcohol, it does have fragrance, essential oils, etc. This one has the exact same 4 UV filters as in the Goodal. And I'm like, I only noticed this when I was actually putting my notes together to prepare for this video. I'm like, hey, maybe I should start looking or paying more attention to the combination of filters because I think it's working for me. Something I should mention with regards to the filters in the Dr. Jart and the Goodal is that they contain Tinosorb M. And while these two sunscreens don't give me a white cast, Tinosorb M can give like very deep skin tones, a slight white cast. So I'd love to hear in the comments below, like if you've tried a sunscreen with Tinosorb M, did it blend into your skin well, or did you still have some type of issue? Now, what makes this Korean sunscreen different from many other Korean sunscreens and the Goodal is that this one is water and sweat resistant. No sunscreen is actually really waterproof. They put that on the labels, I guess, because it makes sense to consumers, but it's really water and sweat resistant and it's up to 80 minutes. That means that if you have to go in water and you have to choose between one of these two, you'd probably use the one that's water resistant. And that just means that it's going to have better adherence and stay on your skin while dealing with those elements versus this one. This one is going to come off way easier. Now, just a side note, if you are using a water sweat resistant sunscreen, maybe you're going into the beach, the pool, probably because you're exercising or whatever outside, you need to reapply after that amount of time that it's working because it will eventually break down. Water, touching, sweat, etc. will eventually break down your sunscreen. But like I mentioned, it's not very common to find that the majority of sunscreens from Korea are in this category. I tend to find that a lot more often in Japanese sunscreens, which we are going to get to. But that is one of the things that makes this product quite unique. Unlike the Goodal, where the main skincare ingredient is Hotunya Kodata, and they kept the formula very simple, this one has like a million things. So this has a lot of anti-acne ingredients, things like phytofungicine, niacinamide, a lot of other antioxidants like carrot extract, ascorbic acid. So there is definitely also a focus on brightening. But the texture on this, OMG, like this is the natural matte finish of a sunscreen that I want. Like Dr. Jart, we definitely need you to do this over without the fragrance if possible, please, with this exact finish for people like me. We need it. This is another sunscreen that is perfection on somebody with oily skin and probably somebody who likes to wear makeup and you're very particular about the type of sunscreen that you use. Yeah, I actually don't recommend this for somebody who's probably normal or even dry. Combination, maybe, because you might actually find this a little bit too drying without moisturizer. If you're going to pair it with moisturizer, then great. This will also kind of function, to me at least, like a primer because of the finish. So it kind of feels kind of like powdery on the dry down. I love that. Now, after I just raved about the sunscreen, I will say that this would have been the perfect sunscreen formulation for me, except you see that fragrance? Oh my goodness, this straight up smells like a white floral perfume. The fragrance in here is very strong. And again, I don't really have a problem with fragrance. I understand the purpose of fragrance in a lot of skincare products because a lot of times fragrance actually masks how bad that product would have smelled in terms of the ingredients. And if something smells bad, it's not very likely that you're going to continue using it. So a lot of times companies actually put fragrance to enhance the sensorial experience using a product. However, sometimes they go overboard. And I think that's the case here. that fragrance is just way too much for me, way too much. The other thing is, while I absolutely enjoy the wear of this, the finish on my skin, like absolute perfection for my oily skin, how beautiful it wears under makeup, humidity, etc. If I use the sunscreen about 3 days in a row, my skin will get irritated. And I really, really feel that it's not the other ingredients. I really feel it's how heavy the fragrance is, and probably whatever that fragrance or essential oil is inside here. The one other reason why I would probably not repurchase the sunscreen, and I feel terrible to say that, I really need them to do it fragrance free, is that Dr. Jart, if you guys know about Dr. Jart in terms of the Korean space, it's not one of the more affordable Korean brands, and this tube is only 30 mls. So there's not a lot of product, given that the standard size of a sunscreen is around 50 ml. Not much, and this one is actually the most expensive sunscreen in this video. The next two sunscreens are Japanese sunscreens, and this one I already included in my best skincare of 2024. This is my third, probably fourth, I don't know, I subcounted, but this is the Nivea UV Super Water Gel X SPF 50 plus, PA4 pluses. Now there's another one by Nivea with a very similar name, but it doesn't have the EX. So if you are going to purchase this, you want to make sure that you purchase this particular one. This sunscreen, just like the other one, is both water resistant and sweat resistant. And if I'm being very honest, this year, generally, water and sweat resistance in a sunscreen has been a very important thing that I look for, because I use it most times of the week. Once I'm going to the gym, I am not putting a sunscreen like the Goodal on my face. I'm actually putting on a water and sweat resistant sunscreen. When I get home and I shower again, that's probably when I'll put on like a more traditional sunscreen. That's when this baby will actually come in. So this one falls in that category, and that's why I've probably gone through so many of these. I travel with these. I know that it really, really gives my skin excellent protection. This one, however, it has alcohol. That alcohol is really helping the texture, because you will realize that this has a gel lotiony type of serumy feel. It's very, very, very lightweight, like all the sunscreens in this video. And that alcohol really helps in the dry down. This one also has fragrance, but it's actually a fragrance that I like. It is way lighter. It's a light rose fragrance. And by the way, I might be saying light, and then somebody could probably smell this and be like, oh, that's too much. Because of course, fragrance for all of us is going to be relative, right? When I was actually doing my notes for this, and I was like, yeah, this one contains fragrance. I was like, it contains fragrance. I don't even remember what it smells like. That's just to tell you, like, I use this all the time, and fragrance is never one of the things that I think about when I actually apply it. This one actually has 4 filters, one of them being older generation, which is octinoxate, which is actually a filter that I can use, and the other 3 being new generation filters. Something that's interesting in this formula is that while it has the alcohol in there to help the spreadability, to help the dry down in this formula, you would actually think, oh, that's probably going to be very dehydrating on the skin. And that's where I was really, really wrong, because this formula actually has a moisturizing toner base. It is packed with mannitol, a lot of hyaluronic acid, and rosehip extract. So this is one of those sunscreens where, because it is so lightweight, I can't actually apply my full quarter teaspoon in a go, but I think it's just habit now that I tend to split the full amount into 2 applications. Again, like with all your sunscreens, you should really leave it for 5 to 10 minutes, let it really nicely form that film of protection on your skin. And when it sets down, that's when you're really going to see what is the finish. This one definitely has a more glow finish on the skin. Nothing that's crazy, one that I can absolutely live with, but the other 2 sunscreens that I mentioned are not as glowy as this one, but it is glowy, not greasy. It is glowy because if you look at yourself in the mirror, you're going to be like, oh, my skin has that really nice, healthy glow, but it's not something that you're going to be feeling on the skin. It's not heavy. It's not something that you touch and it's going to feel like slippy or anything like that once it actually sets. And while I do have oily skin and I am living in the Caribbean with a lot of humidity, the fact that I've gone through so many bottles of this should give you an indication of how much I love the sunscreen, how well it wears. And I have no problem now, guys, none whatsoever, to put a little bit of powder on top of my glowy sunscreens just to take off that extra shine. I am good and it works for me. And last but not least, this is another Japanese sunscreen. I actually started using this one long after the Nivea. But when I started to use it, I was like, these sunscreens seem so similar in terms of the finish and the wear on the skin. And this is the Skin Aqua Super Moisture UV Gel, SPF 50 plus, PA4 pluses. Again, this is what it looks like. And this, again, is a sunscreen that has been around forever. This is one of those viral Japanese sunscreens that has been going around for years. I just never tried it because you see what it has in that name? super moisture. Super moisture, and me just like oily skin doesn't sound like it's going to be up my alley, but I'm glad that I finally tried it. Now, something else that I want to mention is that this particular sunscreen is available in a couple of sizes. This one is the 110-gram bottle, so it's actually like twice the amount that would be in a typical sunscreen, which is great. I love the bigger size. This one is another Japanese sunscreen that is also water and sweat resistant. One of the other main differences between this and the Nivea is that this one is fragrance free and essential oil free. So if you think that fragrance in the Nivea is going to bother you, then the Skin Aqua is definitely the one to go to. Incidentally, these two sunscreens have the exact same filters. Again, I really need to pay attention to this. However, the Skin Aqua, in terms of how the formulation was described, is said to be silica encapsulated. Now, the company says that this particular technology was used to allow a more uniform UV protection in terms of the film that's formed on the skin without it being irritating. So, just like the other one, this also has alcohol in it. It's very similar in terms of the texture, very lightweight gel type texture. So it's going to blend into the skin very, very easily. But while it has that alcohol in there, this one is packed with different types of hyaluronic acid at different molecular sizes. So it is done in a base that is also very hydrating on the skin. And as you can see in the finish, this also has that very natural glowy finish on the skin. Again, glow, not grease, very lightweight, wears really well. I just tap on some powder, good to go. One other thing that I want to mention with this one that I absolutely noticed when I'm applying it is that there is a cooling, very refreshing sensation that I feel every single time I apply this. And when I'm applying it, it just feels so good. And that's very interesting because I think I actually saw somewhere that people described that I should probably get that with the Nivea, but I noticed it definitely with the Skin Aqua. And as with all the other sunscreens mentioned in this video, I do not get a white cast with any of these. That ends my roundup for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this sunscreen review video as much as I really enjoyed making it. If you have any questions, definitely leave it down below. If you've tried any of these, please also leave your experience down below, especially if you are another skin type as well, because that really helps other persons. And something I should just close off with is that if you use any of these particular sunscreens that I mentioned for oily skin, and you find that using it on its own, it feels a little bit dehydrating, perhaps you're dry or normal, because I do have some dry skin people that want like a more natural matte finish on the skin, they don't want the glow, then all you actually need to do is apply your moisturizer below. For a lot of people with oily combination skin, the way sunscreens are formulated, they already have moisturizer ingredients. So if you are in a country like mine where there's a lot of humidity, then your skin is probably going to feel a lot more comfortable skipping moisturizer and then going straight to your sunscreen. And of course, that's going to be a very individual experience, and you can absolutely tweak your AM routine in that way. So guys, I will see you in another video soon. Remember, I do these videos to help you choose the right products, because if you're not using the right products, you're using the wrong products. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. Bye.